Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Lace up those boots and sling on the pack for a romp through trails, short and long. With your host and Renaissance man, Doc. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail. I'm Doc, and this is the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Let's start off with a reminder. If you are enjoying the podcast, take just a minute, help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the pod, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guest. This week, we are taking a trip across the country to the Northeast to talk about New Hampshire and the White Mountains. Helping us on our trek today is a man who is very familiar with that area and who has some stories to share. Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod, Neal Lyon, creator of Neal's Simple Life Instagram and YouTube accounts. How's it going, Neal?
Very good. Very good. Thank you for having me, sir.
Absolutely. Now, I know you're not a big thru hiker or backpacker, but one of the things we do here on the pod is we go by trail name. I'm Doc. It doesn't say that on my driver's license or my paychecks. I picked it up on the trail. Is there any similar tradition with mountain climbing in New Hampshire?
Well, yeah, some folks got some trail names. I guess a couple of my friends that call me Prancer.
Prancer.
And yeah, and then a couple of my other buddies will call me the Mayor because I guess I'm a little popular.
Okay. Do you have a preference for which one we use tonight?
Whatever, man. It's cool with me.
I kind of
ring for it.
I kind of like the Mayor.
Yeah, all right, we can do that.
The Mayor.
My buddy Phil would appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Phil. Is he the one that bestowed that upon you?
Yeah, him and my buddy Greg.
Okay, Phil and Greg, nice job, guys.
I feel silly saying it, but I can appreciate the love.
All right, hey, is it just when I address you? Is it Mayor or is it the Mayor? I mean, is the an integral part of the trail name?
It's the Mayor.
The Mayor. Okay.
Hey,
the Mayor. Have you listened to any episodes on the John Freakin' Muir Pod before?
I have not, fortunately, and we mean to
be
a downer with that, but no, I don't usually listen to many podcasts.
Okay, that's all right. I'm only asking because I want to make sure that you are aware of a segment that happens near the end of the episode called the Pro Tip Insight of the Week. It appears every episode, and that's where I turn to my guest and I ask the guest to share some trail wisdom that's going to make our listeners' next outdoor experience even better. So you'll have a chance to divulge your pro tip towards the end of the episode.
I can help with some of that with the hiking and the weights for sure.
Okay. All right. Hey, I've got another feature that I kind of just spring on my guests occasionally, and it's called Current Events. And so I would scan through the headlines and pick a story about outdoor adventure that's in the news these days, and we have a little conversation about it. So lucky for you, we're going to be talking about the Barkley Marathons.
Oh, I've heard those are pretty vicious.
Yeah. Are you familiar with those?
I know a couple of people, I believe, that have participated.
Yeah.
I heard they're pretty gnarly.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the documentaries that have been made about them?
I have, and I can't remember which one it was, but I did see one. Yeah,
there are two real popular ones. There's the Barkley Marathons, the race that eats its young.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Barkley Marathons where dreams go to die.
I think it was that one.
Oh, okay. Then you're going to
be wrong. I could be wrong.
You're going to be well versed then.
About a year ago.
Okay. This is going to sound familiar then because the headline I saw today was that Gary Robbins has made the announcement that he is not going to be competing in this year's Barkley Marathons. And Gary Robbins is the subject of that second documentary I mentioned.
Is he the one that lost it 2 years in a row, barely by the skin of his ass?
That's correct.
Just couple of really unfortunate or something. It was really, really close. And I believe that's the one I saw.
That's right. That's it.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, some hardcore shit.
Mm-hmm. So he attempted it twice once in 2017 and once in 2018. Like you said, he just barely missed out. And it's documented in the documentary Where Dreams Go to Die. He wants to become the 16th finisher in the Barkley Marathons. That's just crazy to me that a race has been around for 30 plus years, and there's only been 15 finishers of the race.
That's insane. It's insane. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, all kinds of mystery and hype surround that race. The race organizer Lazarus Lake is a very interesting individual, and secrecy surrounding the application process, and just a lot of quirks with that whole race. It makes it very, very appealing.
Didn't it have something to do with a book too? Like they have to find pages to a book, or
yes.
Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not. You're not. You know what they do is, to make sure that every participant goes the full circle of the course. They have, I think, 11 or 12 books spaced out along the course. They have to find the books. They could be hidden underneath a rock or in a tree or somewhere. They have to find the books, and then they tear out the page that corresponds to their bib number. And they have to bring all 11 pages back to prove that they have completed the loop. Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
It's just bonkers.
It is bonkers, dude. what a wrinkle to throw at him.
Yeah. So I guess he was injured in 2019, so he didn't compete. 2020 was canceled because of COVID. And then I think last year he didn't want to risk coming down from Canada to participate, and then contracting COVID and not be able to go back because of quarantine rules or whatever. So he didn't participate last year. And I guess he's come to the realization that, he's been, I don't say he's been missing, but he fears that he doesn't want to miss too much of his son's childhood and growing up. So he's going to forego the race this year to spend some more time with the family.
It's a quality priority. I have a lot of respect for that.
Yep. And hey, have you ever heard of the ultralight backpacking company Outdoor Vitals?
No, I have not. So
another current event for my listeners. It's one of our sponsors, and I just received a nice gift bag in the mail containing a Ventus Adventure hoodie and some Satu trail pants, and they are phenomenal. I mean, they are high quality. I'm looking forward to trying those out and kind of giving them a review.
Yeah, a few other people should try them out for sure then.
That's right. All right. So that leads right into our next segment, which is our must bring gear review, sponsored by that ultralight backpacking gear company, Outdoor Vitals. And here's how it works. I know that you don't do necessarily multi-day hikes or through hiking, but if you were to let a stranger pack your bag with pretty much generic gear for a summit attempt, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? And if you've got a particular brand for that piece of gear, even better. So, Mr. Mayor, what is your must-bring piece of gear?
So I would have to say this time of year is your hard shell. Your hard shell is going to be absolutely crucial, maybe followed by a couple items, but having that hard shell, that proper layer in the wind, and God forbid you run into any, moisture, rain, snow, any sort of thing like that. You understand, if you've been here, being above tree line that's the one critical piece of gear that's going to, keep everything else kind of in line at least, and keep your temperature up and keep you as dry as you possibly can be. It's critical.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite brand for your hard shell?
At the moment I have an Arc'teryx that I'm very happy with. Triple layer Gore-Tex. I can't remember the exact model. It wasn't cheap, but having used it a number of times now, it's absolutely worth every penny. I'm not taking anything away from any other brand. I can't say either way, but in the end, what any individual needs is a proper, I'd say at least, Gore-Tex layer, something that's guaranteed to keep you dry and keep the wind off of you. It's hard to express how truly critical that is.
Yeah. And as we are recording tonight, it is early in January. And
yes,
are you getting out there and getting after it in January up in the White Mountains?
Oh man, all year round.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That hard shell is going to be important then.
Oh, hard shell, and a multitude of other items. But the hard shell is important. Year round though. Year round, 52 weeks a year. That's what we do here.
Okay.
For most of us.
Let's take out your pack and open it up and look inside. What else do you have in there when you're heading up in January to the top of a mountain?
All right, so really fast off the top, inside my Hyperlight mountain gear 40 liter is I will literally typically have 3 to 4 jackets, including my hard shell, which is also a layering layer. I have a nice windbreaker that I like to use. I have a vest. I have a puffy, and then I will typically have, if I'm not wearing one of them, I will have two different grade fleeces, I guess you could say, hoodies. One that's a little bit warmer than the other. I've always got at least 2 or 3 pairs of liner gloves, 1 pair of midweight gloves and mittens. I have goggles. We have sunglasses. Always want a headlamp with extra batteries. I use a chargeable one, but I have 3 separate batteries that I keep charged for that if I ever need it. Plenty of hand warmers and foot warmers just in case. You want lip protection, just some lip balm, things like that. Even some face balms in case you need to keep the wind off your cheeks. It's usually have a number of buffs, merino wool, and then some nylon ones. I've always got silly as it sounds, I have a couple extra plastic bags just so I can actually change out my sweaty layers so I can get dry layers on, which is kind of a little rough when it's cold to change in about 30 seconds or so to expose yourself there. But it helps keep you dry, and it only lasts for, a short, brief moment. Typically, I bring at least 3 to 4 additional base layer shirts that I can change out if they get wet or sweaty or whatever, followed by a couple more merino wool layers, and always typically about 2 liters of water. I'm not really sure what else I'm missing. I do have a tripod that I carry with me, a little portable sort of gorilla pod, they're called, which work really well, just to hold my phone. And then, of course, spikes. I usually have some micro spikes, and I have some more appropriate hill sounds or Catula K10s. I do also own your typical strap-on crampons, 10 points, but I typically save those for the Northern Presidentials if I use them.
Wow. Now, all of that gear, about 90% of that stuff that you just rattled off was clothing of some sort.
Yeah. Yep. And I guess there's a few other things that people have, or whatever. Some people bring some different things, but typically day hikes and stuff. Mm-hmm. I have friends that'll carry bivvies and, tents and a sleeping bag. I don't typically venture too far out of the places that I'm familiar with. So in the winter, I there's plenty of spots to hit, but I just don't carry those things myself. I'm not saying the next person should not. You should definitely always take what you're comfortable with. I'm very seldomly by myself, so there's a couple of things I will cheat on. Mm-hmm. And then I always make sure I have electrolytes and salt tabs and things like that in case I incur cramping or anything like that. I can counteract that,
right,
if need be.
Now you ever do? Are these typically day? You're done in a day kind of hikes, or do you ever do multi-day adventures?
I've done a few overnights here and there. Okay. But typically, I'll say this to the chagrin of probably most of the people listening. I am a day hiker. I'm not really sure. I haven't really taken too much time to get into backpacking. There's certainly some things I'd like to do at some point, but I don't know. I just kind of came out here and started, working in the White Mountains and kind of developed into a peak bagger and a lot of single day stuff, getting whatever I can done, during the day or in most daylight hours with some dark on either end of that. But
yeah. Hey, Mr. Mayor, no chagrin necessary, because as we like to think about it here on the John Freaking Muir Pod, we talk about outdoor adventure as, being a huge tree with many limbs, and each one of those limbs is a different type of adventure. Just, backpacking is just one of those limbs. Peak bagging is another one. And there's all kinds of, various types of outdoor adventure, big wall climbing, kayaking, rafting. It goes on and on. So
yeah, it's all good stuff.
We're looking forward to hearing about your adventures out there. So before we move off of gear, let's do a quick segment here called the hiking poll. And this kind of helps me distinguish between am I talking to a crazy person or a sane person. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and see which side of the fence you fall on.
Sounds good.
Right. You ready? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I am.
All right. First one, trekking poles or no trekking poles?
Ooh, I use trekking poles going up Washington just last Tuesday for the first time in probably a year and a half. And I only use them to make my life a little bit easier. We're going up a steep section of the cog, which is pretty much not straight up, obviously, but it's a pretty good grade for a good 2 miles. And it just, with the wind and everything, it made life a little easier. So I'm going to go with, you should have them. I don't use them though.
Okay. Gives me
They're very helpful, but I'm stubborn.
Gives me a sense already. All right. I know this next question might depend on the season, but boots or trail runners?
Ooh, that's another tough one. Cold season, always boots. And for someone with who tends to roll their ankle and sprain their ankle like I do, I would probably say year round. But there's just something really comfortable about that low top shoe, whether it's just a hiking shoe or a trail runner. That just I just feel better with rather than with the boot. But the boot is safer. It's going to keep your ankles supported, just so there's no little, mishaps and ankle biters that can kind of ruin your day if you're not careful. I ended up missing almost 2 months this past summer because I busted my ankle over the stupidest thing while we were taking a picture, and all I did was look up, take a step to the left, stepped on a rock that was kind of sitting against a smaller rock, and rolled my ankle. And of course I was a stubborn ass and I walked my way off the mountain, so my peak's counted. But that dumb little mishap, had I had that 2 extra inches of support on my ankle, never even would have happened. And, I would have been walking fine for 2 months rather than being laid up and busted up. But, whatever.
Yeah. All it takes is just one little accident like that.
It's just
take you right off for a couple of months. Yep.
It's always the dumbest shit.
Yep. All right. And when you do a multi-day excursion, you prefer tent or tarp?
I actually really like my Z-Packs duplex. I've never used a tarp, and I don't think I would. I like to be enclosed.
Okay.
I understand that kind of work as you can enclose those two, but I don't know. There's just something about the tent that I enjoy.
You feel that extra layer of safety being enclosed, that thin bit of tent.
I don't know. It's just something about like being on the grounds makes you feel a little safer. Can't really explain it.
Okay. No, I'm not talking about a hammock. I'm talking
that's all right. So that's probably where I was thinking for a second. No, tarps are on the ground. Probably a tent. Okay. Especially if it's warmer, because the bugs. Right. They probably got bug nets on those too. So again, I don't really know too much about it, but I do have a Z-Packs duplex that I've actually slept in many, many times. Both on the times I have backpacked as well as just regular old car camping and stuff.
Well, if I had a Z-Packs duplex,
it's a quality piece of gear.
Yeah, if I had a Z-Packs duplex, I'd be sleeping out in the backyard with that thing.
Oh man, it's sweet. They really are.
Now, how about
spacious too?
Yeah. How about a sleeping bag or a quilt?
All right, so I've had both of those, and I'm probably going to go with a sleeping bag. Okay. The quilt's nice, and I understand it. Like for those, the thru hikers and more avid backpackers, it saves a little weight. But again, it's something about being enclosed that I'm just comfortable with. So I actually like those Nemo spoon style sleeping bags, the ones that are a little more relaxed fit. I can't remember the name of the one I have now, but
sounds like a pair of jeans, relaxed fit.
Yeah, that's right. You got to be nice and loose, cramped. Like those mummy bags don't do it for me.
All right, and then this one probably doesn't apply, but just put yourself in the position of a thru hiker. Would you be the kind of thru hiker that carries a stove, or would you cold soak your food?
I would want the stove. I have a stove so I can heat things up, make myself hot chocolate and shit like that. Maybe depending on the time of year, like I could do with, just constantly having maybe some cold soaked, like, grains and dehydrated vegetables and things. I think that would work. But I feel like there's something of morale booster when you can eat something good and warm when your body wants it.
Okay. Now, despite starting out with, not being fond or using trekking poles on a regular basis, you actually fall like about an 83 on the sanity scale. So,
okay.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. I used to use trekking poles a lot more, but as my legs get stronger and everything, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I feel like I'm more fumbly with them. I feel more in control if I'm just concentrating on, I don't know, with just my legs, but everybody's a little bit different. I have a lot of friends that use them, and It is what it is.
For sure. I mean, I'll get a wide variety of answers on that poll right there amongst, people who are doing the same thing, through hiking or backpacking. They have definite preferences one way or the other, and they don't all match up. So it's interesting to see how people play out like that. All right. Hey, before we get too far down the trail, Mr. Mayor, let's talk about your background, growing up, what kinds of sports and hobbies you played as a kid. What did your family do in terms of outdoor adventure, and how you got involved in this whole outdoor experience?
All right. Well, I'm not really sure where to start with all that, but I grew up in Northeastern.
Start at the beginning.
Yeah. So I grew up I was born in Putnam, Connecticut. I grew up in Northeastern Connecticut, which is pretty much right up in the corner where Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut meet. It was maybe a town over a few miles from the border of each of those. My father, I used to always go outside when I was younger. I enjoyed being in the woods behind my grandfather's house, which was always, just pretty cool. I mean, anywhere from the time I was probably like 4 or 5 years old all the way up until, even when I was in high school, I just enjoyed being back there. Sometime growing up, my father used to bring us up to North Conway, New Hampshire every year and, rent a cottage or whatever. So I spent, at least a couple weeks every summer growing up. I spent up here on the Saco River, which was, pretty cool. And I don't know if that sort of planted some seed or not, but that's pretty much where I ended up now. I was kind of athletic growing up. I used to play football through high school, enjoyed that. And that was pretty much all I did for that. Tried baseball once or twice. I was pretty terrible at it. But yeah, I didn't really get into hiking or much other of the outdoors until I was in my, until I was about 40 years old. I'm 43 now. I'll be 44 in another month or two. And that's kind of when all that started.
So late arrival to the hiking game, similar to me. I didn't start till 2015, which was 7 years ago now. So
yeah, what the kick in the pants is I lived in Southern California for 7 years, from 2003 to 2009, 2010, and I've been snowboarding in Tahoe and stuff a couple of times, and I never even realized that hiking was a thing out there. And like, son of a bitch, if only I had. Like, if only I had. But yeah, late to the party, but
now, where did you live in Southern California?
This Pismo Beach area, actually. Okay. Yeah. Kind of had a friend, my mom's friend, moved out there when I was young, like 19 or 20 or 22 or something like that, and ended up getting invited to come out here. So came out here for like 7 years, and then, due to family stuff, and I was getting a little older, I figured it was time to come back to the East Coast. I did that when I was like 31 or so.
Yeah, Pismo's a big ATV dirt bike kind of haven.
Yeah, so Grover Beach Dunes, one of the only places in the country, and I'd imagine this has stayed the same the last 10 years, assuming but only one of the only places in the country you can actually drive out onto and take your ATVs and do all that sort of shit, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good spot out there.
I remember taking some ATVs out there one time, and there was a windstorm. The wind was just howling, and I was surprised that the paint wasn't sandblasted off of my Chevy Blazer. And one of our buddies came, and this was like in the middle of summer, and he showed up, and we're all sitting around the fire at night, and he reaches into the back of his truck and brings out his Christmas tree. Now, this being June or July, this tree is pretty dry, and he just tosses it onto the fire. It goes up like a rocket. It was exciting times.
I bet. Yeah, it was a good spot. I used to like sleeping on the beach out there with a couple of my friends once in a while. I literally lived right across the street at the end of 4th Ave in Grover Beach, or not 4th Ave, Grand Ave. And I spent a number of nights out there on those dunes. It was pretty dope.
In your duplex?
No. Duplex I just got a couple of years ago. Pretty much slept on the ground back then. It was fire, whatever.
little cowboy camping. Nice.
Yeah, this is sweet.
Now, growing up in Connecticut, I've always wondered this, 'cause, being from Southern California, we've always been surrounded by professional sports teams, basketball, baseball, football, except for the time period where we didn't have any football teams for a while. But in Connecticut, what teams do you root for? Are you a Boston Red Sox and New England Patriots?
I'm a Red Sox, New England Patriots fan.
Okay.
Although I'll admit, I'm all about some Tom Brady, so I'm all about those Bucks now too. And call what you want, but the man has done way too much for me to just turn my back on him.
Mr. Mayor, you and I are going to get along just fine. I have the same exact opinion.
The Patriots are about, their stadium is about 45, 50 minutes, maybe a little bit longer from where I, grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Boston was only like an hour and 10 minutes, 15 minutes with no traffic, which is not common, but it's pretty close. And
it's like at 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning, there's no traffic, but
I guess I could have went with a New York team or whatever, but maybe it was proximity. I have no idea,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and I'm not really too into basketball and hockey, but I can appreciate it when the home team does good. But yeah,
Okay.
So it'd be Red Sox and Patriots, and I'm definitely more of a football guy.
Nice. Now, a couple of years ago, I think it was December 2019, my oldest daughter said, "Hey, Dad, because we're big Patriots fans. We were big Patriots fans at the time. I still am." She said, "Hey, let's go to a game." And so we bought airfare and tickets to go see the Patriots play the Chiefs in December of 2019. That was the game where they got screwed by the refs with 3 or 4 critical bad calls that shouldn't have gone that way, and they ended up losing to the Chiefs by just a couple of points. But Tom was excellent, and it was quite an adventure. We had a great time.
Nice. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. It's a pretty special place over there.
Yeah, I'll let you know that the plane tickets from Southern California to Boston were less expensive than the nosebleed seats at Gillette.
Yeah.
Yes,
especially if you get those son of a bitches second market. I actually bought one ticket for myself to see Tom Brady and the Bucks come play this year, and I paid an obnoxious amount for it, and I got the cheapest ticket I could, but it was worth it.
That was week 4, right?
Yeah,
it was a tight game. I knew it was going to be a tight game.
Sunday in October, I think it was. Yeah, it was a good game though.
Yep,
it's pretty cool.
All right, hey, what are you doing these days to pay the bills and fund your adventures?
So I'm a server, a waiter. I work in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I work in probably one of the best. Truth be told, I work at the probably the best spot in the entire White Mountains. I'm very lucky. Fortunate to have a spot there. And
you want to tell us?
Yeah,
you want to tell us the name of it?
Treats me really well.
Tell us the name of it so I can stop by when I'm in town.
Yeah, man, the Red Fox in Jackson Village, New Hampshire.
Okay, the Red Fox.
Yeah, it's a great spot, huge place. Place runs like a machine.
Is that named after the actor?
Impressive. No, I'm not really sure where they got the name. To be honest with you,
Red Fox was an
Yeah.
actor during the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I recall. But no, I'm not sure where the name came from. But it's a great spot, and it's like family there, and it's the kind of place that I was looking for. I used to work at this one place in California. I worked there most of the time I was there. It's called the Far Western Tavern. It was in Guadalupe, California, on the Pacific Coast Highway.
Mm-hmm.
It had been open since 1958 and family owned at that point for almost 60 years or 50 something years. And it still is. They ended up moving it because the old man finally passed away sometime in the early 2010s, I believe, after I left. But they moved it to go to Orchid, California. But one thing I loved about that place is it wasn't corporate, and it was literally like we were all family.
Right. And
it was a good spot. It was a nice steakhouse, old school tavern. It was actually interesting tidbit. It was actually originally the Palace Hotel, which was built in like 1912. And they used to have, there was like gunshot holes in the wall. And it was just classic old Western saloon, old school hotel brothel, I'm sure. And it was right on the Pacific Coast Highway in Guadalupe, California, which is just this old, Asian Mexican farming town. And it looks the part. There's that old little mom and pop shop right across the street that just looks like an old shithole, but they make the best goddamn Mexican food you have had in your life, you know?
Yeah.
That was a great spot. And one thing I always wanted to find for myself, because, you know, I just enjoy the business. I have no desire to do anything else, is was something like that up here. And that's exactly what the Red Fox is. It's just a great place with a lot of great people, and they care about you. And it's always just fucking busy, and it's just a great spot, you know, and everyone likes their job, and they all get along well. And the fucking hordes just come. It's nuts. It's nuts. It's like literally right across the road down the street from like two of New Hampshire's like most popular like family attractions, and it's pretty wild. But great spot. I enjoy doing it, and the place treats me well. So
yeah, the spot you described in California. I mean, you gotta love a place that has history like that. That's just amazing.
Oh, dude, that place was cool. I mean, I can't even remember right off the top, you know, half the cool shit I heard about that place and the stories and stuff, you know. But like the guy who owned it, like he got hit by a train when he was younger. It's just an ornery old fuck. Like it's just amazing. Like and the heritage and just the whole like history around the building and the town, and seriously old school. Like, they don't have places like that too often anymore, you know. And it's unfortunate that they moved it, but you know, it gets passed down, and
right.
Other people want it to be newer and nicer, but it was a great spot with a lot of history and some solid people.
Yeah. Now, when I show up to the Red Fox and I sit down, what is the go-to order there? What do I need to have?
So they got this thing, right, where we have this Josper grill, they call them, and we do these combo plates. So they're basically barbecue combo plates. And some people call it grilling, some people call it barbecue. You know, everyone has their terms. So basically, what you're doing is cooking over, you know, an open flame, like an open wood flame. But there's these ovens called Josper oven, grill ovens or something. And there's only like 11 of them in the country, and we have 2 of them. And it's weird because they're like an oven, but you use wood inside, and you use the door and the vents and things to control the heat. And just the way they're set up, there's something about them makes them very unique. And yeah, we have these combo plates, you know, shrimp and steak and ribs that we, you know, the ribs are actually cooked a little bit slower in a different process. But, you know, the chicken and the whole shebang, we offer combo plates. It's probably what we, you know, what we're most known for is that. And, you know, our marinated tips, our steak tips, they seem very popular.
Nice. I'm sold.
Yeah. No, they're good. They're good.
All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to hear about some of his outdoor adventures and this thing called the White Mountain Grid. I really want to talk to you about this. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. The John freaking Muir Pod is sponsored by Outdoor Vitals, the ultralight backpacking gear company whose mission is to improve the mental, physical, and emotional health of mankind by facilitating impactful outdoor experiences. Outdoor Vitals creates innovative technical products with confidence-inspiring education that empower outdoor ultralight adventurers. Their focus on performance enables you to live ultralight with gear you can actually be confident with. Whether you're looking for an ultralight sleep system, shelter, or pack, or if you're looking for top quality apparel for the trail, you can find it at Outdoor Vitals. Do yourself a favor. Live ultra light. And welcome back. Before we get to Mr. Mayer's adventures in the White Mountains, I want to make a slight correction. Neal's YouTube channel is not called Neal's Simple Life. It is called the White Mountain Wanderers. So the YouTube channel, White Mountain Wanderers. Check that out. A lot of great content on there. So, all right, back to business here. So let's, I know that in our conversations leading up to tonight's episode, we had talked about some struggles that you had gone through. And I think you characterized them as the lost soul days. You feel comfortable sharing that with the audience here?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, we all have our bullshit, right? Mm-hmm. But, you know, I guess, what you're referring to is pretty much sums up how I got into hiking, right? So let me give you a little background. You know, something happened to me getting back, like when I mentioned earlier, I came back from California, I was like 31 or something. Something happened to myself. I don't I don't really know what it was, and over the course of the next 9 years, I ended up in this like long depression, right? And it really didn't come on until like 4 or 5 years after. So like between the ages of like 36 to 40, we'll call it. And I don't really know how this happened. I was just not a happy person. I don't think I was where I needed to be. I felt like I had probably taken some steps back, and to be just bluntly honest about it, I wasn't doing right by myself, my body, my soul, my spirit, my health, or like I typically will say, my family or my friends. And what happened was, and I'm not really sure how I got there, but I turned into a pretty severe alcoholic. I don't really have any rhyme or reason for it, but for a good, and it's not pretty, but for a good about 5 years, I like to say that 6.5 days out of the week, I drank to finish the job, right? So pretty much every day, but 1 or 2 maybe. And I don't even know what kept me from doing it on those days. Probably I just beat the shit out of myself so bad with it that I just needed to break for a day. I'm not proud of that. I don't really know how I ended up in that situation. Sometimes we just end up in these situations in life, and we're not really even sure how we got there to begin with. We just end up realizing that that's where we're at, and you're faced with a choice, and you can either, pull your shit together, or you can continue to falter. And fortunately, I came to my senses at one point. I was 40 years old, and realizing that I was wasting a lot of time, and it wasn't in my best interest, and it wasn't fair to my family, and it wasn't fair to the people that cared about me. And a lot of this they didn't even know, right? I'm not. It's amazing what you can hide from people when you want to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially when you get enveloped in this little fucking world of yours, and this cocoon, and this depressed state of being where you get comfortable being that lonely. It's amazing what you can fucking hide from people, right? So essentially, yeah, what happened was I ended up in a bad spot mentally and physically for about 5 or 6 years of my life. And I did a lot of damage to myself. I'm not proud of any of that. None of it, but I can honestly tell you that thankfully at some point I figured it the fuck out, pulled my head on my ass, and October 8th of 2018 was the last time I ever drank. And to kind of put it in perspective, that last day that I did drink, I did have a friend there to help me with a little bit of this, but for the most part myself, I put down a 30-pack of Bud Light. I put down 2.5 6-packs of IPA, and almost a handle of Jameson. And by handle, I mean a 1.75 liter, almost by myself. So, I don't know how we ever got to that point. But thankfully, when I woke up the next day, and I had it in me to just fucking stop. And I stopped cold turkey, and it was a little rough for a little bit, and I don't really know again why I did that shit, but it wasn't until I was 40, so I was 40 and a half at that point. It wasn't until I was a good 4 or 5 years into it that I was just like, I need to fix this. And that took a little bit of time. And then finally, oddly enough, I just started going for walks and stuff to try to break the habitual action of, drinking in the morning and then in the afternoon. And even though at the time I was still doing it, I just started going for walks because I knew I needed to start to do something. Like I had to have something to kind of, all right, we just need something to interrupt this pattern, and I didn't even know where to start. So I was like, oh, we'll just go walk, and we'll walk at the track or whatever. And then I started doing that a little bit. And then I'm realizing like, oh, there's trails in the woods here and stuff. Like, let's go do that. It's a little more exciting because you can only walk around the track so many times, especially if you don't you know, you need something to keep your interest, right? Like I'm
Right.
trying to fucking break this terrible habit. And even though it came pretty easy, it's just that, you know, just walking a couple circles around the track wasn't going to fucking cut it. So I started going out in the woods a little bit more, and I was much more interested in getting back to like what I had in my childhood and whatever, and just being outdoors like that that was a much more therapeutic situation for me. And it gave me the ability to think and reflect a little bit better than, like I said, just, you know, like a hamster on a wheel. So I started doing that in some different areas around my home. I tell the story about my buddy Eric, who back home, who at the time, and I think pretty sure he still lives there. He was living on an Audubon bird sanctuary, a piece of land that his family had sold to them, and they kept part of it for themselves. And right in his backyard is the Audubon bird sanctuary, and there's a few miles of trails there, and it kind of goes up to this little hill or whatever. So, you know, being terribly out of shape at that moment, I was probably, I'm 5'10". I typically weigh between 170 and 175, you know, when I'm a little bloated. But at the time I was pushing over 230, you know, which on a 5'10" frame, I don't care who you are, it's just not healthy. And unless you're like a, you know, bodybuilder, you just shouldn't be weighing that. Right. And so I wasn't in the best shape, and kind of went around there one day with him kind of randomly, because I was at his house. Shit damn near killed me, because again, I was in terrible shape. But we ended on this little hill that kind of looks west and sits about 150 feet off the valley floor, if you want to call it that. And I was like, this is pretty cool, you know. It felt good, and I was fucking dying on the inside, but there was something about the experience that was nice. It was the end of the day, it was the golden hour. It was just, it was kind of just that, maybe that moment I needed. I don't really know, you know. That was June, and I don't know why I remember this date. It was June 28th or 29th of 2018, right? Still a few months before I stopped drinking. And but it just kind of gave me that little push. And then from that point forward, there was at least a couple times a week I made it a point to go out on some local trails. There was this one place that was local to me called Bigelow Hollow State Park. For anyone that knows that area, or might be from the area, it's actually a really nice, it's probably about 11 miles of some pretty quality trail for being northeastern Connecticut. There's a lot of water, there's a lot of rocks, roots, trees, hills. It offers you a fair amount of different terrain and features considering its location, right? So yeah, I started doing that a couple times a week. Did that through the summer. I was still drinking, tried to stop once or twice, and I don't think I really wanted it. And maybe made it a couple days and just whatever. And it wasn't until so that September, a couple months later, I made my way to New Hampshire for the first time, because somewhere in there I started branching out of my little area locally, and I started finding other trails and looking for small places. Like I found the All Trails app, and I was just trying to find places here and there that I could just go that was different, you know, clear my head, give me a new little place to explore outside of the little hole that I had been living in, the small town that I had been living in, and kind of, you know, sheltering myself off from the rest of the world. So I was just kind of branching out, looking for these little places, and, you know, found a bunch of cool little spots. Probably did that 2 or 3 times a week. And then sometime in November, I had known of this mountain called Mount Monadnock, which is a pretty prominent, smaller mountain with a nice bald top.
How do you spell that?
Monadnock.
Okay.
So it's about 3,288 feet, I believe, or 3,260 or something like that is the peak. Kind of sits by itself in the southwestern edge of New Hampshire, not too far over the border. The actual state park is in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. Pretty sweet little spot. And I like to compare that to like an actual white mountain. It's smaller, but it's got a lot of terrain, a lot of the ledge, a lot of the technical shit that you'd find on a lot of these white mountain climbs, you know. And I kind of found that place, went there, and even though at that time I was still drinking, I managed to make my way to the top. It's about 1,700 feet of vertical gain. There's a number of ways up, and kind of kicked my ass, like totally, right? But I remember thinking when I finally got up there, I was like, all right, well, this is dope. You know what I mean? Like this was an actual mountain with a bald top and 360-degree view. There's not a lot of hills around to break the wind. So you get that experience, which I enjoy the wind. It's nothing too crazy, but a lot of people don't. They get a little uncomfortable. I like feeling that wind. Excuse me. But so I figured that, I didn't figure it out, but I realized that was there and went and did that. And then I think a week later, I went to Mount Major, which is a little further north. That actually, Mount Major is part of the Belknap Range, which sits on the south edge of Lake Winnipesaukee in central New Hampshire. From this, you can see the entire lake. You can see the White Mountains to the north, and you can see, Maine to the east. And on good days, you can see the mountains in Vermont and maybe even further. And that's when I kind of, after those 2 weeks, that's when I kind of realized like how much I actually enjoyed it, and that it showed me a little potential. It kind of showed me what it could offer me if I was willing to put in a little bit of work and, stop treating my body like a piece of shit and actually give a damn about myself. And then it was a couple weeks after that I finally quit drinking. And for the next few months from there, I started using hiking as my therapy and my distraction. And I spent the next 3 or 4 months just kind of a few times a week, just going wherever I could, learning new areas. I would go to the Catskills. I would go to Minnewaska State Park in New York. I would go to Western Massachusetts, Mount Greylock, and a few places over there. Western Connecticut, Lion's Head, Bear Mountain. A good little section of the AT over there that has a lot of really good spots considering it's Connecticut. A few other places, just over the border in Vermont. I think it's Haystack Mountain, or Little Haystack. And again, going back to Monadnock a number of times just because that place kind of gave you a lot, kind of really, it was the most technical out of all of them. The views were amazing, and it's, good place to see a sunset too.
Right. Would it be fair or oversimplified to say that you kind of traded one addiction for another?
I get asked that a few times, mm-hmm. I kind of hate to use that word. Mm-hmm. Addiction is an ugly word, right? Kind of has a negative connotation to it in my eyes. Mm-hmm. And the weird thing is, I can't even say what I did was an addiction. I just liked it and I hated myself. Of course, you reach a point where your body's like used to it chemically, right? Like it's just, you're feeding it that substance, and it, mm-hmm. I don't know if it's got something to do with the way that metabolizes it, or it's the sugar it really likes, or the alcohol itself. But it does become, I get to a degree, an addiction. But
maybe a better word's an obsession.
Yeah, right. That probably was a better word, dude. Honestly, again, like I'm not trying to downplay it or
sure,
reword it for anyone else that might think of it differently. But yeah, I think it was more of an obsession, and it took the place of something that I needed. Maybe, I have no idea, right? Like so. But all I know is I found that I enjoyed being outside, and I enjoyed working for the views. Mm-hmm. And in a way, it's therapy, and it was a way for me to punish myself and kind of work out the aggressions and everything. And one thing I'll say about recovery that I don't think I've mentioned while speaking to anyone before is it took some time, right? Like, so that was August of 2018. And I can honestly tell you that it probably wasn't until the fall of 2020 where I actually felt like completely healed as a human being, right? Like, if I didn't have like all the mountains and peaks and the hiking to do between there, I'm not sure how that process would have gone. To kind of give it to you in a nutshell, just to talk about, recovery for a moment. Mm-hmm. It's like the first few months, right? The first few months, the way I can describe it is, when you're in that fucking haze constantly, right? That state of confusion and I guess delusion and just whatever, right? It took a few months. We'll probably say 2 or 3 months before, just for like the clouds to clear. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just for like the fucking haze to go away. After that, it was kind of like your body started to physically heal. Like the weight started coming off. and whatever was building up in your body from all those toxins and everything you were constantly feeding it was starting to slowly filter its way out, and your body was starting to metabolize normal again. Your appetite comes back to normal, and it's not that I didn't have one before, but it's a different way your body reacts and digests things, and just it works is different, right? So then it was probably like a few months of, all right, like things are physically starting to work better. I'm starting to feel better. Like within 9 months, 8 or 9 months, even though I tried to lose weight before, I couldn't. I was back down to like 160 pounds, which is, 160, 165 is kind of like an ideal weight for somebody my frame and size, right? So that kind of it's just crazy how it just fell off. That actually happened within the first few months. But, after that, it was, more of a mental thing. Like the mind started to clear more, and my brain started to work better and all that stuff. And then finally, I'd have to say the last part of it was, all the emotional shit that you ended up burying away. Yeah, it's just, that stuff came back, and then you've got to deal with all that. It's just a long, drawn out process for anybody who's kind of wondering what somebody who's been through recovery, has dealt with. So it's a little bit different for everybody, I'd imagine, but that's kind of how it went for me.
Yeah.
If I didn't have, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's certainly anybody who thinks it's, switching off or switching on a light switch. It is a much more complicated and drawn out process than that. It sounds like you were dealing with multiple levels of issues as you had, like you said, the physical, the mental, the emotional, it's all tied together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of happens one at a time, and at least that's how it happened for me. So it's not as black and white as people think, it's not like all of a sudden you're just better. It doesn't work like that. The obsession or the addiction could be long gone, but it just takes time.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that commonly comes up in my discussions with people on this show is that people who are involved in outdoor adventure tend to have an obsessive personality, and they go down the rabbit hole on stuff. And when they are hooked into something, they are, full bore. I mean, they are, like you said, 52 weeks a year. They're out there doing it or planning for it. And so
why wouldn't you?
It's easy to see how, this obsession, which what you've done over the course of years is you have shifted this obsession from the negative thing to this now positive outdoor experience.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been pretty wonderful. Kind of, thankfully everything came back around, and now my energy goes in a much different direction, and my spirit is alive again, and I feel like I got my life back, and then everything's back in motion. And now I live in this amazing place where I get to spend time every day if I want in or on these mountains. Like I drive through the Notch every day just on my way to work right by Mount Washington, and it's just it's a much more beautiful place. And it's what's come out, as shitty as all that stuff was and all the nonsense I did to myself, because it's no one's fault but my own. There's a lot of beauty that came out of it. And so we should definitely focus on that, and not so much, the dark part of it. Right. But, if it wasn't for that, I can honestly tell you, if I didn't put myself through that and I didn't do that bullshit and it didn't happen the way it did, that I wouldn't be where I am now. And that's with a pretty solid life, at least I like to think. And living in the White Mountains and surrounded by beauty and people now. So
right. Congratulations on grabbing the reins and moving that horse in a completely different direction, no matter how difficult it was. And another thing that commonly comes up is that everything that's happened in our past has led us to this point. And so
absolutely,
yeah, it seems to be an agreed upon concept there. Now I've got in my notes here I can't wait to hear about this. I've got in my notes something called the White Mountain Grid, which consists of 48 of New Hampshire's biggest peaks. And then I've got every month. And then I've got another note saying 576 annual peaks. So did I get something confused there? Explain that whole thing to me.
All right. Yeah. So a little more clear, I guess. So most, maybe some people might know that there is 48 designated peaks and summits in the White Mountains that the 4,000 footer committee or group or whoever is that decided all this, the AMC there, designate as the 4,000 footers, and they range from 4,000 feet up to 6,288 feet, which would be Mount Washington. Each peak has to have a designated amount of prominence from another peak, so you're not, at least to give it some distinction. And there's 48 of them. The idea is that you all 48 of those peaks, which a lot of people do for themselves, and then just, do the 48, and they might go further than that and keep hiking or whatever. But there's been about 18 or 19,000 finishers since they've kind of been keeping track or whatever. You can register. I never did, but they do keep a tally on it to a degree. So there's 48 of those, right? And the idea with the White Mountain Grid is you take all of those and you do them in every single month of the year. It doesn't have to be done in a single calendar year, although one person has done that, which is fucking unreal. And then there is another person who's done a single year grid. Now, in a calendar year, my friend Phil, he did it from the beginning of August until the beginning of the next following July, rather than January through December. So two people have done it in less than a year, but it's not required. So you're doing 48 peaks times 12 to give you 576 peaks overall. That's the end goal. So you've done every single one in every single month of the year, which can be a pretty daunting task. In the end, you'll have to hike somewhere around 3,500 miles, depending on how you do it. It doesn't really matter how long it takes you. Some people go at it pretty hard and finish it in 3 or 4 years, which is a pretty good time. Typically, it's going to take the average person, I would say, 5 to 10 years. And as opposed to 20,000 finishers, I'm pretty sure the grid count is only up to 121 at this point.
Wow. And so if I get this, let me get this straight in my mind here. You're doing all 48 of those peaks each month of the year. Correct. And so, one year you might get, August and October in, right? You do the 48.
Yeah, you might actually, August, what they call gridding them out, where you're like, all right, I don't have to do any more specific peaks this month. Like my January coming into this month, I only needed, I think, 12. And I've already knocked out 4 or 6 of those. So I may end up having January gridded out, so I don't have to do that next January. But yeah, that's essentially what that means.
Got it. So it could be also. So what you just described it to me is that you could knock out 10 in this January, and then you previously you had done 18, and then that leaves you with 20 more you have to do next January or the next couple of Januaries. Is that how it works?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. Most people will just kind of knock out what they can, do whatever they can this January. Then the next January, they work on the ones they haven't done. I do try to take that approach, but I do like mixing it up and revisiting things. I try not to make it my sole priority. I did that for the first 10 and a half months that I lived here, from May of 2020 up until April of this past 21. And I found myself getting burnt out personally. I did damn near half the whole grid in the 10 and a half months. And some people like to go hard like that. I have friends that have, just been working on it nonstop for the last year and a half, and they want to do it in 2 years or 2.5 years. And that's all they do. And I can appreciate that, but I don't like to put that sort of responsibility on myself. I went pretty hard before, and it was just not really the approach I wanted to take. So if it takes me a little bit longer, I'm going to mix in other stuff and not make it the priority every single time out.
Right. And we're not talking about just climbing 48 peaks. We're talking about the complete grid, which would be 576.
576
Wow.
is the total, is the final number of peaks and summits you would have hit, designated. And then that's whatever other ones you have to walk over that don't count or whatnot. But yeah, there's a lot of miles. There's well over a million feet of total vertical by the time it's all said and done. And again, if you're not familiar, like, I know a lot of people knock our mountains. They think they're small or this and that. But if you haven't been to the White Mountains, all I can tell you is that the terrain can get fucking rugged, and they're not as easy as you think. I mean, a lot of these are only 3,000 or 4,000 feet of vertical gain to get. They don't sit real high above sea level, but they're not easy.
I think that's
a lot of the thru hikers will tell you when they come to the White Mountains, they weren't ready.
Yeah, I think that's a key point you just pointed out there, is that they don't sit too high above sea level, and yet they're over 4,000 feet. So you're doing all 4,000 of that vertical climb, or up to 6,200 feet with Mount Washington. I think a lot of us West Coasters who are thinking, 4,000 feet, that's not a lot. We're over here hiking in the Sierras, and we're going over passes that are 13,000 feet.
Yeah, 10, but like, how much is the vertical gain that you
exactly?
You're probably still only getting 4,000 or 5,000 feet of vertical, and
if that, if that, right.
Yep. So so you can look at the overall number of the overall height of the mountain. Right. That's a little misleading, and you can brag about who's got the bigger dick, right? But like, it comes down to like the terrain and what you're dealing with, and I'm sure the altitude has something to do. I'm not taking anything away. It's just, right. But I wouldn't be quick to knock the number itself, right? It's just it's a little misleading, and I'm telling you, you come here in the shoulder season, you come here in the dead of winter, and goddamn, the shoulder seasons are gnarly. It's just where nothing's stable, things are rotting, there's ice, you can't, you're post holing even with snowshoes on, like. That 5 or 6 or 10 miles up to get to a certain peak or whatever, it could be fucking grueling. It's just not as clear cut as they think. But right. The mountains here are pretty rugged. Thankfully, I have a couple of them that are not so bad. But all in all, it's pretty. It can be pretty rugged, and that weather can turn on you pretty quick and get pretty vicious. A lot of people don't realize that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't claim to be a weatherman, but Mount Washington sits right in the middle, and the Northern Presidential sit right in the middle of 3 different weather patterns that hit that one specific place in the country. And there's a reason that it's known to have the worst weather in the country, and only be at between tree lines between 4,000 and 6,000 feet. It just changes quickly, and it can get pretty rough.
I've heard stories about some really nasty weather on Mount Washington that just can appear real quick.
Absolutely. Went up Mount Washington via the cog with my buddy last week. I was talking about the trekking poles, and on a day that was supposed to be 20-mile-an-hour winds, and at the top, 25-mile-an-hour winds with just some cloudiness. Ended up, by the time we started coming off the top, shortly thereafter, they hit 80 miles an hour, and the visibility was pretty bad. So the idea is, and I'm not suggesting anybody ever go up there in that, but we took the cog railway, so you can pretty much just follow we didn't take the railroad, right? Mm-hmm. But you can follow the railway up the side of the mountain. Right. So you have a hard line, even no visibility. You can literally, you could walk the tracks technically if you had to get back down safely. Don't recommend that to anybody. It was a foolish day to do it. But it's just to kind of put it in perspective. All right, we're supposed to have 20 to 25 mile an hour winds. Maybe they're going to pick up later in the day. Well, by 9:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, they're approaching 80 miles per hour. And, there was ice balls flying across the top of the summit. Again, I don't recommend that. I felt comfortable with the party that I was with. And we had the hard line of the cog to follow. But that wasn't supposed to be like that. And the only reason I know that is because my good friend Patrick works up in the Mount Washington State Park up there, and they've got the observatory. And he basically lives up there 4 days out of the week, and he was up there when this was happening. So he's the one that gave me those numbers. And but it's just, you got to be careful. It can turn fast, and the weather can get pretty rough, you know.
Yeah. Now, if I take the train up there, does that count? Can I cross it off my grid? No. Are you sure?
No, you gotta walk from the parking lot up to the top, and you have to walk all the way back.
Okay.
So if you get all the way to number 576 and you don't make it back to your car on your own power, like you bust an ankle or something 10 feet from it, it don't count.
Oh man,
yeah, come back and do it again.
Heartbreaker. Now I just did a quick search, quick Google here while you were talking, and Mount Washington, the official record low is 50 below. 50 below. That was recorded January 22nd, 1885. The official record cold.
That's ambient temp too. That's not. They don't measure wind chill.
That's correct. The official record cold, I guess when they had more accurate record keeping, was 28 below in 1995, February of 1995. So that is no joke.
If you even go to the observatory's Instagram page, they'll tell you straight up they don't do wind chill measurements. They do ambient temp. They don't do feels like. So that's a true, almost minus 30.
Yeah, wind chill. That's not for them. Yeah.
No, they don't keep track of that number.
All right. Hey, what's next for you, Neal? I mean, Mr. Mayor, what's next on your adventure list?
So, got a few days off here. I'm going to plan on probably hitting a couple of the smaller mountains on Saturday. It's supposed to be nice and cold, but really clear blue skies. And then for the rest of the winter, I'll just keep working on my grid. I'm up to number 338 now. I did just a couple days back when we did the Franconia Ridge Trail. Went up the loop and hit Mount Lincoln in Lafayette. I did that with some friends a couple days back. So I'll just pretty much keep working on my grid and keep hiking with my friends. I enjoy doing a lot of YouTube videos, and I kind of work that into my hiking experience, I guess you could say. I don't do them every time out. I used to. Now my schedule just doesn't really allow for it to be done the way I want to do it. So I usually pick a spot every once a week where I'm going to make a video, or I pick a hike or a certain occasion or whatever, and kind of feature that on my YouTube. So I like to do that as well. So for the rest of the winter, and probably just as we go here, I'll just be plugging away at that grid and throwing in other cool shit that's just fun for me to do. And maybe some other friends have some things that they want to achieve, or they're finishing their 48 or whatever other milestone, and make sure that I'm there to experience that and celebrate that with them.
Okay. Now on your YouTube channel, White Mountain Wanderers, what kind of content can people expect to find there? Are they instructional videos? Are they tips and tricks? Are you detailing some particular peaks out there?
So what I kind of did with it was I kind of started it at first just so my folks could see what I was doing. And kind of take them along, because this isn't something they do or whatever. They're older, not that much older, but it's just not their thing. So I kind of started doing it originally for them so that they could see. And then I thought, well, there's no one out there who's documented their entire grid in video form. So then I was like, all right, well, I started doing that, and making sure. I think I started it when I was on peak. I did Jefferson was my very first real shitty video. I just pretty much took the stills that I was trying to get images with and pieced together like a minute and a half, right? And I think that was peak number 150 or 152. And that was a little over a year ago. And so I started using it to, again, show my folks and then document my grid. And then as I got a little bit better at it, so I got my whole single season winter that I did last winter, where you do all 48 in a single winter season. So that was kind of cool. I added that to it. And then I had friends who started like finishing things. I got a friend who finished a grid. I have a couple of them now. I have some little children that have finished their 48, other friends that have finished their 48, different, milestones and things. And I started making videos of their days, and it just kind of pretty rewarding in a sense, right? And so that's kind of what I started doing, and that's what it's made of. Just our days out in the mountains, different times of the year, and just trying to capture what we see, what our day is, maybe capture a moment for somebody else, and try to put out a little more content of what we've got going on here in the Whites, and what the terrain offers, and the views and the people. And started focusing more on the community aspect of it. And it's kind of what it is.
As you were talking, I pulled up your YouTube page and immediately just subscribed. And
thanks,
it looks you have a clean presentation. Just looking at the videos in your library here, they all have the same consistent style with the titles. They range anywhere from 3.5 minutes to like 20-25 minutes I'm seeing here.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
Working on a couple more right now. What I'm working on right now is actually our winter solstice hike. We traversed the Southern Presidentials and finished with a sunset on Mount Jackson. That's kind of what I'm working on now. I got another, and then I've got Mount Washington coming up behind that, which was actually over 2 days because we turned around the day before, the one I just talked about earlier. And a couple more that I got that I've got recorded. I try to do them in chronological order. So
okay,
but yeah, it's try to put out as much as I can on there. And over a year, I've done like 115 videos or so, and I guess I seem to get a lot of good feedback on them, and so it's kind of cool. I don't know. I never thought I'd be a YouTuber. It's not really something that I ever even thought of, but I like kind of capturing our day and kind of, like I said, just showing what we got going on over here.
You didn't tell the
people I care about.
You didn't tell the guidance counselor in high school that you want to be a YouTuber?
No, probably would have laughed at me. I'm not even sure you would have known what it was back then.
Yeah, it wasn't. That's the thing. Yeah. Now, Neal's Simple Life, the Instagram account. I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong. Neal's Simple Life kind of,
yes, it
refers to that. That refocusing of being out in nature and just kind of focusing on the important stuff out there.
Yeah. When I think I started posting like outdoor pictures and stuff when I was starting my recovery. So I think he used to talk a little bit more about that on there. And now it's just kind of like just throwing some images out there of photos of random views or people or kind of whatever. It's nothing too crazy, but seems to garner some interest, and people seem to appreciate what I share there. I just try to share some good pictures of what we see, and again, like once in a while, a nice group shot of me and whoever I'm with, and just stuff like that. Trail pics, sometimes a bird or something. Kind of got these gray jays here that people seem to love, and good stuff on there. Whatever I think I got a decent shot of in my phone, which these iPhones, I got to tell you, hats off to them. They were pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Considering that they're just a phone.
Yep. Multi-function tool. Yeah.
Yeah. Great little things. My one luxury.
Yep. Now, let's do a quick impromptu top 5 list. If I can pin you down, of the 338 peaks that you've done so far, what are your favorite 5?
My favorite 5. All right. So there's pretty much only, aside from other mountains, there's only 48 peaks in there. But I think
that's true. That's true.
I think maybe then.
Thank you for the correction.
I think over that, rather than trying to pick 5 peaks that I like the most, I think I'd rather just share 5 experiences that I think are pretty pretty telling, I guess. First one would be my first round of the 48, which is when I first got into it. I did a bonds traverse. So what you do is you hit Mount Zealand and you go over the bonds. It goes from north to south. It's 20 miles. And you kind of start at one point, spot a car on the other side of the mountains to the Pemigewasset Wilderness, right? That was 1 year. That was my 1 year anniversary of being sober. And I saved that one for then just because I heard it was great. And, it's this epic shit, right? Like you come out, there's just lots of great viewpoints along the way. And then when you get halfway, you come out in the middle of Pemi, and it's like you're in a completely different world. Well, the interesting thing about that was I had picked the day to do it on a certain day. I wasn't willing to compromise like the day, right? So I was just like, all right, well, this is my 1 year. This is when we're doing it. This is meaningful shit, right? and then I get there, man. It's like it's just like a 10-hour hike, right? Or whatever, give or take an hour, depending. And about 20 minutes after we started, even down at the lower elevation, like everything was just fucking socked in. Like you couldn't see shit. So I went about 20 miles that day. I could never see more than 50 feet in front of me the entire time. And the bonds, if you've ever been on Bond Cliff or West Bond, or again, going over Gio when you get to tree line, it is, I mean, it's an experience that your eyes won't forget. It's fucking insane. And I got none of that. Not a single bit. So
you're walking in a white tunnel.
I was the white tunnel the whole way, and the person with me, I could, probably 20 yards in front of me or behind me at times. You could barely see them. It was so thick, But that one was more about the experience and the personal conquest. Like never did I think I'd be 20 miles through the wilderness, and 1 year later we were feeling pretty good about ourselves.
Okay.
Another time was Mount Jefferson, which is one of the northern presidentials. We went up there in late October, and again, the hard shells are very important, and that's a very exposed mountain, high up, almost 6,000 feet at the summit, about 57 and change. But we get up the tree line, and it's like a fucking monsoon coming in sideways at like wind with like 40 or 50 mile an hour winds, and I mean the winds coming in sideways. I mean the rain, excuse me, the wind is causing the rain to come in sideways. So you're just
Forrest Gump rain.
Yeah, it was pretty obnoxious, and the crazies that I just happened to be with that day, they were very comfortable. So I was like, screw it, if you guys are comfortable. We got down. By the time we were finished, we were all completely soaked through, hard shells or not, and just had the best old time. But to be up there in that heavy rain and like just being blown over and everything was in late October. That was pretty wild.
That's type 2 fun right there.
Yeah. And another time was pretty amazing is I actually finished my single winter season 48 on that same mountain, with some of the most amazing undercasts that I've ever seen. And everyone knows what that is, obviously, when you're higher than the clouds, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like a sea of clouds below you, and all you can see in the distance is the peaks of the mountains, and everything above is like blue sky and sun. It's this very surreal kind of thing. If you've never seen it before, it's pretty cool.
Undercast. I don't think I've heard that term before, but that perfectly describes it.
I'm not sure if we're like, if it's the proper terminology. It's just kind of what we use here, but it's the inversion of the clouds, right? It's just you're higher than them, and they just get low in the valley, and when they cover everything really well, it's not like just a patch over there. When they cover everything really well, it does look pretty amazing. Another time that was pretty special was when I actually finished my original 48 on Mount Isolation in the middle of winter by myself. Not really sure why I did it alone. A lot of people do it. A lot of people I know, anytime I've got a friend now that goes, there's like usually a herd of us.
Well, it's called it's Mount Isolation.
Yes.
Sounds like you need to do it by yourself, right? I mean, it's in the title.
Yeah, yes. It's a weird peak that kind of sits on the southeast side of the presidential range, kind of in a pocket over there, but it's well off of Route 16, and you got to kind of go up over this place called Engine Hill, and it's not that far out there. It's like a 14-mile hike at worst, and but for whatever reason they call it Mount Isolation.
Okay,
it's a pretty cool spot. You get a pretty epic view of the presidentials from there, and just being my first round of finishing the 48 and kind of realizing that little goal was pretty special, considering again,
right,
how things have been previously.
I think that's 4. That
is 4. One more, and there's probably a ton. And I have a friend who finished the grid back on August 1st. He finished on Mount Moosilauke, which is the southwesternmost peak, and the first 4,000 foot you'll hit coming over the Appalachian Trail. It's a nice big bald meadowy knob, and just a really, really nice mountain. And the weather up there can get pretty nasty if you're not careful. It's not usually a very kind environment, even in the summer. It just can be windy and angry and socked in and whatever. But I had a friend of mine who finished his grid. He had been working on it for 14 years, and we went up there one day, and you don't tell the AMC people, but whatever. We all respect what we do, and we all have more experience than most. But there was like 28 of us, and we went up there, and and it was we had the whole weekend that we took to celebrate my buddy and his accomplishment, and we had a whole slew of us. And he finished his White Mountain grid after 14 years, and to see that, and I've been on a couple others, but just to see how happy he was, and see how many people it brought together, and we all sharing this common interest, which really kind of sums up what I do with the White Mountain Wanderers. It was a pretty eye-opening experience, and it really made me realize like how special like actually finishing that is, because again, it's not easy and it takes many years for most people, and to actually reach that point and like really just walk side by side with him that last like, you know, mile, and just the reaction and just knowing, and I spent a good part of my year before, you know, helping him and grinding with him, getting a lot of those done so he can get in position to finish that day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the push that he put in the last 6 to 8 months, and to just kind of walk that last walk with him and experience that day with him was pretty fucking special.
Must have been electric.
It was pretty good. There's
Yeah.
a video. It's called Mount Musalaks from August 1st. Is the
All
date,
right.
and if anybody hears this, wants to see what, you know,
We need to
what
check
kind of
that out.
experience we had that day.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. So that's probably up there too. I mean, I probably list a bunch of other shit, but those are like the 5 that came to mind.
Those are all epic. Hey,
worthy moments.
Mr. Mayor, when are you projecting your finish to the 576 to the grid?
So if it goes the way I want it to, the only thing that might keep me from doing it is my May and April, because of the injuries I had this past year are pretty naked, and I'd have to have 2 pretty solid springs to set me up for this. But I'm hoping to finish on Bond Cliff in June of 2023.
Okay.
Which is one of the best spots in the Whites. Again, doing that Bonds Traverse. I actually busted my ankle. I wasn't able to do it this spring with some friends in June, and we'll call it a blessing, because if I had done it, I wouldn't be able to finish there. And I think after some thought and consideration, that if I can work, if the stars line up right, because there's a lot of things that have to go right between now and then to actually be able to plan out a specific spot, I'll be able to finish then on that day.
Well, let's book it right now. July 2023. You come back on and you tell us about the experience.
Will do, man.
Okay.
It's just I know one of the reasons I'm doing this for myself is I have a buddy who says, my friend Phil is a goddamn legend, right? He has this expression where he says, doing the grid, man, just for more than just to say you did. And it kind of hits home, because when I started doing this, I was a very, like you said earlier, I was a very lost individual. I didn't know how far I'd make it in life or any of that shit. And like many of us, right, we have our issues, but to actually put myself in a position where I can actually physically and mentally and emotionally achieve a feat like that, I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm going to come out a different person than when I went in.
Yeah. The grid.
I look forward to seeing that growth.
Yeah. The grid and nature are transformational.
Absolutely.
You went in one person, you're coming out another version of yourself.
It's the nature,
Yeah.
The grid's just the vehicle, just like anybody who through hikes. It's like, that when you go into it, when you come out, something's going to be changed.
Yep. Hey, Mr. Mayor, you know where we are?
I do not.
We are at that time of the episode where I turn to you and ask for your pro tip insight of the week. What bit of trail wisdom, outdoor adventure insight can you share with our listeners to make their next experience even better?
Let's see. One thing I would have to say is when you go into these experiences and you start putting yourself out there and you start spending your time out on the trails and in nature and in the mountains, just remember that you're doing it for you. It's hard to get caught up especially when you tend to be like me and you hang out with, surround yourself with a lot more people, and you can lose focus on why you're doing it, I guess. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of that, like being around folks and everything, but just remember why you're doing it. Do it for yourself. And first and foremost, use it to keep your own mind, your own body, healthy. Keep your own spirit, where you want it to be, and don't let anything interrupt that, and impede on those experiences that you might need for yourself first. Just remember to kind of do it for you and your own, and be patient with it. Don't compare yourself to what other people are able to do physically, or or the kind of goals that they're setting for themselves. Just go into it with a clear mind and kind of try to keep focus on yourself and what's in front of you, because it's real easy to get caught up in the community or the hype, or like someone else telling you should do this or do that, or go after this or go after that. Just try to remember why you're doing it, and try to get out of it what you need for you, and keep your focus there. You know, it's probably the best thing I could say to anybody.
Well said. Well said. Great advice. So there you have it. That's it. This episode is just about in the books. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with the mayor. I want to thank him for joining us this week. Mr. Mayor, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures? Just give them the Instagram and the YouTube channel again.
Yeah. So one more time, my Instagram is Neal Simple Life, NEALS_simple_life. I like to share a lot of my photos there, and once in a while I show a little commentary. And then my main focus, I guess, is the YouTube White Mountain Wanderers, just kind of sharing what we do here, what you might see here, and what you can expect when you might come here at different points in the year. Just something I like to share, and hopefully everybody feels like I do a decent job of doing that, not talking about myself too much.
Okay. Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Mr. Mayor, we got to get you on TikTok. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com. Mr. Mayor, I'm also looking to you to share a recommendation for a book, a movie, documentary, website, some kind of adventure media to keep our listeners connected to the trail in the off season here. Now we're calling this our adventure media recommendation. What do you have for us?
Adventure media? Oh, boy. So I'm going to have to go with that fella in his YouTube, IBTat, somebody that I've kind of followed for a while. It might be redundant here at this point, and I feel like you probably had him on, but I learned a lot from watching his videos. One thing I appreciate about him is he's always very real. I've never had a chance to interact with him. Not that I think I've ever reached out, but yeah, that's kind of where I started, like with my sort of reaching out and trying to like find some good shit on the media and whatnot. There's a lot of great books on the White Mountains out there as well, that I can't remember the names of right now. But yeah, those would probably be my two recommendations. Search for books about the White Mountains, and if you want somebody who keeps it fucking raw and real, and shares a lot, and gives you a lot of content and quality narrative commentary, IBTat would be a good place to start. Yes,
good suggestion. He's been on the podcast twice. Might be, if you want to listen to a couple of episodes, those would be the two episodes I'd recommend to you. If you have a chance, listen to his. I'll
throw it on when I'm done here.
Yeah, he keeps it real. He is a lot of fun to talk to. He shoots it straight. And my mom, who's in her 70s, she is his biggest fan. You know, she listens to the podcast here, of course, and she heard his first episode, and has been following him ever since. You know, watching his YouTube videos as he finished the Continental Divide Trail this season, and she's hooked on IBTat. So there you go, fun for the whole family, he says. All right, hey, and before we wrap things up, I've got one more segment for you called "What Have I Not Asked You" that you're dying to tell us about. What do we miss tonight?
Oh, what did we miss tonight? Oh, man. Fuck, I don't know. What did we miss?
Did we get it all out?
Probably not, dude. I'm sure I'm drawing some blanks. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. Okay, that is a wrap from the John Freaking Muir studio. Any shout outs to friends and family, Mr. Mayor? I've heard Phil's name mentioned a couple times.
Yeah, so really fast, a few of the people that mean the most to me here. I'm going to go with my buddy Greg, my girl Danielle, great comfortable right there, my friend Stacy, my buddy Phil, Joe Mama. I'm going to miss a whole bunch of people here. Mary, my buddy Jared, my good friend Ashley Furness. I need a shout out to her. I don't know. That woman showed me a lot of strength. She's responsible for a little bit of my life here. And I don't know. There's a few people that I could give a lot of love to right now, but there's a lot of us, and I certainly don't mean to forget anybody. But.
Well, Neal, thank you very much for sharing your story tonight. It is inspirational and powerful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, my man. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember the trail is the trail. Doesn't care if you want to go downhill. Doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you're working on 576 peak five. I'm going to edit that part. It doesn't even care if you're working on 576 peaks and 1 million feet of vertical. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.